Amigos, muy buenas tardes. ¿Cómo
Friends,
están? Yo
good
soy Fer.
afternoon. How are you? My
Gracias
name
por
is
conectarse
Fair.
unos
Thank you for
minutos antes
connecting
de
a
nuestra
couple of minutes
transmisión.
before our
Como pueden
transmission.
ver,
As
yo
you
estoy
can
aquí en la
see, I'm
cocina
in the
y
kitchen
es
of
un
my
gusto
house,
poder estar
and it
aquí
is a
interactuando
pleasure
con
to be
ustedes en
here
este lobby
interacting with
virtual.
you in
Así
this
le llamamos
virtual
a estos
lobby.
minutos
Here
previos a la reunión
is this is
lobby
what we
virtual
call
para
our
conectarnos.
previous
Eso es lo que queremos y es por eso
time,
queremos
a
que
virtual
compartas
lobby.
con nosotros tus
We want
comentarios. Como
you
pueden
to
ver, no estoy
come to
solo, me acompaña
share
Carlos
your
desde Chile. Un
comments
abrazo,
with
mi
us,
Charlie.
with me,
Hola
Charlie
Fer,
from
hola
Chile.
Ulises, qué
Hello,
alegría poder
Fer.
estar
Hello,
conectado con
Ulises.
ustedes
It's
en este
great to
lobby
be here
virtual
with
para
you in this
pasarlo
virtual
bien
lobby
antes de
to
el
spend
inicio de la
a few
reunión. Un
moments
abrazo
before
grande, muy contento.
beginning of the
Gracias.
service.
Y Ulises, que
Ulises
se conecta desde la
is
Ciudad de
connecting
México. Mi
from
Ulises,
Mexico
¿cómo
City.
estás?
How are you?
Muy bien, Fer.
Very well,
Saludos,
Fer.
Carlos. Saludos
Greetings,
a todos, amigos.
Carlos.
Contento de estar
Greetings
con
to
ustedes
everyone.
en la
Happy to
reunión, la
be with
segunda
you
reunión de hoy.
in
Pues
our
miren,
second
vamos a
meeting.
hacer algo. Como
Let's do
pueden ver,
something.
bueno,
As you
Carlos está
can
en
see,
Chile, yo
Carlos is
estoy
in
en
Chile.
México,
I'm
en
in Mexico, in
Monterrey. Ulises
Monterrey.
está en
Ulises
México, pero
is
en
in
Ciudad de
Mexico
México.
City.
Ulises es
Ulises
venezolano.
is
Yo viví en
Venezuelan.
Colombia
I lived
muchos
in
años.
Colombia for
Y
many
entonces lo que
years.
vamos a hacer es
So
que
what
yo
we're
quiero que
going to
hablemos de las
do is we're
diferencias
going to talk
culturales y
about
nos
the
riamos un poco
differences in
acerca de eso.
culture
Entonces vamos a
and
pensar
laugh a little bit
en un
about it.
día
So
ordinario,
let's
¿ok?
think of
Vamos a empezar un
on
día
an
ordinario
ordinary
desde que
day,
comenzamos el día hasta
from
que
when we start the
termina
day until it
y,
ends.
y, y nos riamos un
And let's
poquito de
laugh a
tantas
little bit
diferencias
about
que
how
tenemos
many
en nuestros
differences
países.
we
Yo
have in our
recuerdo
countries.
cuando
I
vivía en
remember when I
Colombia,
used
tú
to live
sabes,
in
lo primero
Colombia,
que haces en
you
el día es te
know, the first
despiertas
thing
y
you
¿qué
do in
haces?
the
Ir al baño,
morning
¿no?
is
Entonces,
go to the
yo recuerdo que
bathroom.
en
So I
Colombia,
remember
cuando
in
tú tenías
Colombia,
ganas de ir al
when
baño,
you
pues
had
tú
when you
decías,
wanted to go to the bathroom,
voy
you
al
just
baño,
said, I'm
¿ok?
going to the
No
bathroom.
dabas más
You gave
información.
no other
Pero
information. But
En México, cuando vas al
in Mexico,
baño,
when you go to the bathroom,
hay formas de ir al
there
baño. O
are
sea, me
several
refiero que o vas a
ways to
hacer del
do it.
uno
You go
o vas a
do
hacer del
number
dos.
one or number two,
Dependiendo, ¿ok? Y eso para
depending.
mí fue muy
And that
chistoso, la
was
verdad.
very
¿Cómo que
funny
el uno
for
y
me.
cómo que el dos?
What's
No
one,
sé
what's
cómo sea en
two?
sus
I don't know how it
países.
is in your countries.
Bueno, en Chile vas al
Well, in
baño
Chile,
a secas,
you
simplemente.
just go to the
Si tienes mucha
bathroom.
confianza,
If you
puedes
have
dar un poquito más de
if
información.
there's a lot of
Yo
confidence with
digo
the
a veces
person,
me voy a
you
demorar para que
can
sepan
say,
que
well, it's
el
going to take
asunto va a ser
time
más complejo
so,
de lo
to let them know that
y
the
delante
thing is
alguien
going to be more
decía que
complex.
voy donde nadie más puede ir por mí. Y lo encontré bastante
Ahora,
Some people
interesante.
said, I'm going to
oye,
where
muy
no one else
bien,
can
muy
go
bien.
for me.
Compártanos ustedes ahí sus
So
comentarios.
share your
No tienen
comments
que
with us.
detallar,
You
no
don't
se
have to
preocupen, no
give
se vayan a
details.
inquietar con esto.
Don't
Ok,
worry.
en Venezuela,
In
Ulises,
Venezuela,
¿cómo le hacen?
how is
¿Qué
it
dicen?
Mira,
there?
nosotros decimos,
We
voy al baño,
say,
y
I'm
de
going to the
hecho
bathroom.
agradecemos no
Actually,
dar más detalles. O
we
sea,
thank the fact of
voy,
not
ok,
giving more
nadie te está preguntando
details.
algo más y si lo dices
And
como
no
que
one
no es
says it,
bien recibido.
and it's
De
not well
hecho,
received if
recuerdo
anyone
que en
does.
un tiempo hubo un
I remember at a
modismo
time there
de
was
confianza que decía voy a enviar un fax.
some people said, I'm
Pero
going to
muy,
send
muy
a
en confianza.
fax.
De resto, realmente tú
But
dices voy al baño.
Oye, en la
in any
mañana
other
una
case, we
mujer nos
say, I'm
decía,
going to the bathroom.
la reina va a donde
In
va
the
sola.
morning, someone said,
Claro.
the queen,
Sí.
I'm going
Me da mucha risa. Oye,
to
avanza
where
el
the
día y
queen goes
luego llega la
along.
tarde, ¿no? El tiempo de
Well,
comer.
now it's
Y tú
lunchtime,
sabes, en las
and
comidas,
you
pues
know,
hay un montón de
during lunch, there's a
diferencias.
lot of differences.
Por ejemplo, en
For
México
example,
se
in
usa mucho el
Mexico,
tema de comer frijoles. No sé cómo
we
le llamen
eat
allá en Venezuela.
Oye,
beans.
Fer, ahora que lo
I don't know
comentas,
how you
cuando yo
call them
llegué
in
aquí a México
Venezuela.
hace 8
Yes,
años,
now that you mention it, in
trataron
Venezuela,
de
8
ponerme
years
al
ago,
día de
they tried
algunas
to
cosas, entre ellas,
catch
bueno,
me
el
up
taco es algo muy común
about tacos,
de
for
siempre, ¿no?
example.
Entonces yo voy a pedir,
So
mira,
I
dame un
went
taco con caraota, por
and
favor.
asked for
La
a
persona me mira raro
taco
y
with
dije, bueno, me
beans,
entrenaron
so
bien,
with
debe
black beans.
entender, ¿no?
In the
Sí, sí,
caraotas,
unos tacos con
the word for
caraotas
black beans
marrones, ¿no? Abrió más
in
los ojos así
Venezuela.
como que si estuviese diciendo
And
algo que no
then they
entendiera.
said,
Y
no, it
luego
had
le
to be
dije, oye,
brown beans.
frijoles,
And they
frijoles.
said, no, it's
Imagínate,
frijoles,
en
which,
Venezuela se
and
dice
now imagine, in
caraotas, aquí se
Venezuela
dice
it's
frijoles, algo
caraotas,
que
here it's
mucha gente come
frijoles.
irregularmente.
En Chile
So
se
it's
dicen
different.
porotos.
In
No
Chile, it's
comemos
poroto.
regularmente
We eat them very
porotos. Y si son con
regularly,
tallarines, lo decía
and
adelante,
it's
son
with
porotos con
noodles.
rienda.
It's
Si son
porotos
con choclo,
with
son porotos con mazamorra.
strings,
Así que
and
ahí
if
tenemos
it's with
varios tipos.
corn,
Ah, mira,
it's with
mazamorra. En
it's
Colombia
called the
también se usa mucho el
mazamorra.
tema de mazamorra,
Yeah, in
pero
Colombia it's the
porotos y
same,
caraotas,
but poroto,
nada que ver, totalmente
caraota, not
diferente
at all. It's
acá.
completely different to
Pensamos en
here.
la tarde, vas a la
Thinking in the
oficina, vas al
afternoon, you
trabajo,
go to the
regresas del trabajo a tu
office, you
casa,
go back
¿y
home.
qué
Oye,
sucede?
cuando yo estuve en
When I
México,
was
de
in
hecho, iba
Mexico,
desde el
actually, I
aeropuerto
was
a
going
Monterrey
from
a
the
ciudad de
airport
Monterrey y
to
le dije al señor,
Monterrey, and I
le dije,
told the
señor, al
driver,
parecer hay mucho
it
taco.
seems
Y él me
there's a
miró
lot
así
of
con cara
taco.
de,
And he
porque
looked at
acá
me
cuando hay
like,
mucho tráfico, nosotros
what?
decimos que hay mucho
Because
taco.
we call
Y
a
ahí
lot
tú
of
te quedas
traffic
pegado
taco,
en el taco.
and
Eso
you are
decimos
stuck
en
in the
Chile, no sé
taco.
cómo lo ven ustedes.
I don't know
Pegado
how
en
you
taco
say
es,
it.
aquí en
Stuck
México
in the
estás
taco
pegado a
is
comerte
you are
un
eating
taco,
eating
literal.
tacos.
Claro.
En
And
Colombia
in
se usa mucho el
Colombia,
trancón.
you use a lot
Estoy metido en un trancón,
trancón,
no voy a llegar o me voy a
stuck in
tardar,
traffic.
trancón
You
para
are
tráfico.
stuck.
¿Cómo en
In
Venezuela, mi
Venezuela,
Ulises?
how is it?
Oye, nosotros podemos decir algo
Well,
así
in
como
Venezuela,
que
we can
disculpa,
say
llegué tarde,
sorry.
había mucha cola.
There was a
Había
lot of
mucha cola.
line.
Ok, había mucha cola. Hay que tener
cola-
cuidado.
You have to be careful with that word in Mexico.
Compártanos ahí,
Share
amigos,
with
sus
us
comentarios,
your
por
comments,
favor.
friends.
Queremos
We want
reírnos y divertirnos juntos,
to
¿ok?
to
Estamos
laugh a
a
little
30
bit together.
segundos
We are 30
literalmente de
seconds
comenzar
away
nuestra
from starting
transmisión.
our
Por favor,
transmission.
comparte
Please
esta transmisión con
share
más
it
personas
with
en tus
other
redes
people
sociales. Si estás
in
en
your
Facebook, si
social
estás en
media,
YouTube,
you're in
lo puedes
Facebook,
hacer de cualquier
YouTube. You can
plataforma.
do it
Queremos llegar a
through
más personas
any
porque
one of
queremos
them.
que
We want
ellas
to reach
también
more
puedan
people, and we
experimentar la
want them
iglesia
to
como
also
tú y yo la
experience
experimentamos,
church
que la
the way you
disfruten
and I do.
y sobre todo que
So
puedan escuchar un
we want
mensaje
them to
relevante,
enjoy
un
it,
mensaje
and
útil que
that they
agregue valor a sus
can
vidas.
listen
Así
to
que
a
estamos ya a 10
powerful,
segundos,
valuable message. So we're 10
compártelo.
seconds
Si estás
away.
ahí en tu
Share it.
casa, en tu
If you
casa
are
con
there at
familia,
home
llámanos a que se
with your
sienten
family,
contigo.
call them, tell them to sit with
Relájate,
you, relax,
¿ok? Mantente conectado
stay
y
connected, and
continuamos.
we'll continue.
Amigos, muy buenas
Friends,
tardes.
good
¿Cómo
afternoon.
están?
How are you?
Bienvenidos a esta
Welcome to
transmisión
this
de
Vida In
Online,
at Home
un domingo
transmission.
más.
Another
Gracias por
Sunday.
siempre
Thank you for
conectarse. Si
always
son parte de la
connecting.
familia Vida
If
In,
you are part of
muchísimas
our Vida
gracias
In
porque siempre
family,
están
thank you for
conectados con
always being
nosotros. Y si es
connected.
la primera
And
vez
if
que
this
te
is the first
conectas,
time
pues
you are
bienvenido.
connected,
La
well,
verdad
welcome.
que nos encanta
We
tener
love
gente
to
nueva
have
cada
new
domingo.
people
Gracias por
every
separar
Sunday.
un
Thank you
pedacito
for
de tu domingo.
sparing a
Esperamos que puedas
part of your
disfrutar lo que
Sunday.
hemos
We
preparado para
hope
ti.
you
Yo soy
can enjoy
Fer,
what we
como
have
puedes
prepared
ver,
for you. My
no
name is
estoy
Fer.
solo,
As you
está
can see,
Ulises
I'm not
conmigo, él está
alone.
en la Ciudad de
Ulises is
México. Mi Ulises,
with
¿cómo
me from
estás?
Mexico City. How
Oye,
are you, my
Fer,
friend?
contento,
I'm
emocionado de
happy,
estar con ustedes,
excited of
estar por
being
acá,
here with you,
transmitiendo
transmitting
totalmente en vivo.
completely
Y de hecho
live.
queremos decirte
Actually,
que
we
hoy
want to tell
estamos
you that we
entrando a una
are
nueva manera
starting on
de hacer la reunión
a
o
new way
transmitir
of
a través
transmitting
de
our
videollamadas.
service
Así que
through video
literal
calls.
estamos
So
cada uno de
literally,
nosotros
each one of us
en nuestras
is in
computadoras
our
y esto va a ser
computers,
posible
and
que
this
estemos
will
en
make
vivo. Y
it
de hecho con
possible
tres
for us to
ciudades
be live
transmitiendo
at
al
3
momento. Creo que
cities
Fer tiene algo que decirnos
simultaneously. I
acerca de
think,
eso.
Fer, you have
Claro, en 3
something to tell
ciudades
us
y en
about it.
más ciudades en América
In
Latina. La
3
verdad
and
es que nos
more
ven de
cities in Latin
diferentes
America.
lugares.
We are in different
Y miren,
cities,
estamos
and
sacándole provecho a la
we are
tecnología
making the most
totalmente.
of technology
Todo. Sacamos
because
todo el provecho a la
we are
tecnología.
making the
Y la
most of
tecnología nos
all
permite
of
poder
it, and it
también
allows us
conectar
to
hoy
also
a
be
un amigo
connected
que
with
queremos
a friend
muchísimo.
who
Él
we
se llama
love
Carlos
them a lot.
Vázquez
His
y lo
name
voy a
is
invitar
Carlos
a que se
Vasquez.
venga
I'm
para
gonna
acá, que
invite
sume.
him
Ahí
to
está Carlos.
be
¿Cómo estás,
part
mi
of the
Carlos? Carlos
transmission.
está en
How are you,
Chile.
Carlos? He is in Chile.
Hola,
Y,
Fer.
y
Hola,
Carlitos, gracias por
Hello,
conectarte,
Carlos,
hombre.
and
Hay
thank you
un
for
grupo de
connecting. There's
personas,
a group of
quizá esto, si
people.
es la primera vez que te
Maybe if
conectas,
this is the
qué
first
bueno que
time
lo
you are
sepas.
with us,
Hay
it's
un
good
grupo
to
de
let you
personas en
know.
Chile
There's a
que
group
se
of
está
people
conectando a nuestras
who are
transmisiones
connecting
de
to
Vida In
our Vida
Online.
In
Ellos son de
online
una iglesia
transmissions.
llamada
They are
Vertical
a
y
church
nosotros hoy
called
quisimos
Vertical,
que todos
and we
ustedes le
wanted
puedan poner un rostro a ese
uh,
grupo de
to
personas a
everyone
través de
to
su líder,
know
y
some of these
Carlos
people.
es el líder
Carlos is
de
their
ellos, es el líder
leader,
de esta iglesia allá en Chile.
and
Así que mi
he's the
Charlie,
leader in
gracias
Chile.
por conectarte
Thank
con
you,
nosotros
Charlie,
el
for
día de hoy.
connecting to us
No,
with us
gracias a ustedes.
today.
Estoy muy, muy contento de
I'm
poder
very,
ser
very
parte de esta
happy
familia. Saludar a
for
todos allá
being
en
part of
México,
this
desde Chile.
family.
Yo también estoy en mi casa
Greetings
aquí en
from Chile.
Santiago,
I'm in
en un día
Santiago
no
at
tan
home
frío,
in a
gracias a
not
Dios.
so cold day.
Muy, muy contento de mandar saludos también al resto de
I'm also
Latinoamérica. Sé
happy
que nos
to
ven en muchos
greeting
países.
for
Y
greeting
de hecho,
everyone
fíjense
else
que
in
al
Latin
otro lado del
America.
mundo, justamente
Actually,
estamos
on the
nosotros en
other
el mismo
side of the
continente,
world, we are in
hablando
the
el mismo
same
lenguaje,
continent,
pero muy, muy
talking
contento por
about the
sobre todo
same,
de que
talking the
compartimos
same
la misma
language,
pasión
speaking
por
the
crear
same
una
language, and
iglesia
sharing
que
the
a
same
todos les
passion
encanta asistir.
for
Así que
creating a
muy
church
afortunado,
everyone
muy
loves to
bendecido de
attend.
poder
I'm
estar aquí hoy
fortunate,
día. Muchas,
blessed
muchas
of
gracias,
being
amigos,
here,
por darme esta
and
oportunidad.
for the opportunity you have
Gracias a
given
ti por
me.
separar un poco
Thank
de
you for
tiempo
sparing a
y
little
eso es
bit
lo
of
que
your time,
queríamos.
and that's what we
Gracias.
wanted.
Queríamos que
We
conocieran a
wanted
Charlie.
you
Mi
to
Charlie,
know
gracias.
Charlie,
Seguramente seguiremos
and we
conectados.
will
Te
surely
mandamos
stay
un fuerte
connected, and
abrazo.
we
Gracias
send
a
you a
todos.
big hug.
Gracias por
Thank
conectarte y
you,
saludos a
and
todas las
greetings
personas que están allá
to
en Chile, que nos
everyone
están
there
viendo
in
desde Chile.
Chile
Les
who are
mandamos un
watching
fuerte
us from
abrazo.
there. We send you a
Es
big
padre
hug.
cuando compartimos
It's
una
great
visión.
to
Vivimos
share
tan
a
lejos,
vision.
¿verdad?
We live so
Pero
far
cuando
apart,
compartimos una visión es sumamente
but when we
emocionante.
share a
Como decía
vision, it's
Carlos,
so
queremos ser una
exciting.
iglesia que
As Carlos
a
said, we
todos
want
les
a church
les
everyone loves
encante
to
asistir.
attend.
Ahora, hoy les cuento
Now,
que vamos a
today
continuar
we
con
will
la serie que
continue with
iniciamos
the
hace 2
series we
semanas
started
atrás,
2
una
weeks
serie
ago,
llamada
a
Yo le
series
entro.
called I'm
Yo
In.
le entro. Y hoy
And
vamos
today we are going to share part 3 of this series, and if for any reason you haven't been able or you haven't heard the previous messages, I advise you do so. You can do it, and it's important that you have the whole context of the series. So you can do it through a podcast, you can do it through different platforms, Spotify, or through the podcast app in any device you handle. That will help you to have a better understanding of this series. Actually, we have news from
Así
the
es, tenemos
podcast.
nueva
yes,
imagen,
we
así
have a
que
new
si habías
image.
entrado hace
So
tiempo,
if
hoy en día
you
entras
hadn't
y vas a ver
seen
una
it,
imagen
you will go
diferente,
in and
así que
see
te
a
animamos a que te
different
suscribas en esa aplicación de
image.
preferencia que tengas para escuchar
We
los
invite you to
mensajes. Y mira,
subscribe
no
so
tan
that you can
solo
listen
puedes
to the
escuchar el
messages.
mensaje,
Not only
los
will you
diferentes
listen to
mensajes
the
de esta
different
serie,
messages of the
que ha sido
series
tan relevante, sino que
which have been so
también puedes
relevant,
escuchar todas
but
las
you
series,
can listen
los
to
mensajes de todas
all
las
of our
series que hemos
series,
estado subiendo los
the ones
últimos
that we have
meses. Así
uploaded
que
in the past
no te
couple of
quedes con
months.
eso solo
So
para ti, comparte a alguien más los
don't have it for
podcasts
your
para que también
own.
puedan
Share them
conectarse
so that other
y
people
bueno,
can
agregar valor a su
connect
vida a
and
través
add
de estos
value to your
mensajes.
lives through these
Yair y
messages.
amigo, perdón,
Yair,
Fer y amigos,
sorry,
quiero
Fer
comentarles que por
and
ahí hay alguien
friends,
un poco
let me tell you
inquieto,
there's
ya listo,
someone
ya
anxious,
preparado. Y él es Yair,
ready.
yo estoy aquí en
His
su
name is
casa.
Yair.
Yair,
I'm at
Ahí
his
está el buen
house,
Yair,
and
súper
there's
inquieto el
Yair.
muchacho.
He's
Ya
very
está Yair. Yair es quien nos va a entregar la
anxious to
tercera parte de
start
este mensaje y lo va a
sharing, and
compartir
he'll
con todos
bring
nosotros. Así
this
que como
third part
vieron, Yair ya está
of the
listo.
message.
Yair, te
He's
dejamos con
ready,
la
and
excelente
we'll
audiencia
leave
que
you
nos
with the
está viendo en este
excellent
momento y a
audience
ustedes, amigos,
watching
gracias
right
nuevamente por
now. And
conectarse. Los
thank you,
dejamos en excelentes
friends.
manos
You
y
are
los
in
dejamos
excellent
con el
hands,
siguiente
and
video.
we'll leave you with the next video. Friends, how are you? I am extremely happy for the opportunity of sharing with you today from Mexico City. We are at home in my house, and I love the fact that we can spend a little time together virtually. I'm extremely thankful with you for connecting to Vida In at home. Thank you for being part, no matter if you are in Monterrey, Saltillo, or Mexico City, or Santiago de Chile. I love to see Carlos. It's very inspirational to find leaders with whom we share a vision of building a different kind of church. We truly believe the church was not built to be endured, but to be enjoyed. And that's what moves us. And it is amazing the opportunity of being together. You know, we've had a very good response doing this live. We are connected, as I told you, as Ulises told you, we're connected from our computers, and we love that each one of you is connected as well. I feel like a control tower right now because I have some devices here, and I'm connected to Saltillo page, to the Mexico City, to the Monterrey website, and I can see many people, many of you are sharing this transmission. You are sending your greetings. Thank you to everyone. I have the page from Monterrey here. I have Sergio Avila. He was connected all the way from the beginning. Salvador, Gianni, well, look, Nora Mendoza. Thank you for connecting. Also, they say hi to Ulises Sanfer. In Saltillo, we have the Nora Alvarez. Gib, my dear Gib, it's great to see you. Great hug all the way to Saltillo. Irma. And of course, I cannot leave out our friends in Mexico City. Eileen, thank you for connecting. Daniele, thank you for connecting. Aleli, I'm so eager to see all of you that are connected today. I'm very anxious of seeing you gathering, but we understand that we have to live or go through this, and regardless of it being a challenge, this technology thing is a great gift. It's great to have the opportunity of being able to stay together, even if it's virtually, and sharing these transmissions. Let me tell you, we are in the middle of a series where we've been talking about the identity that comes when you decide to follow Jesus. Being part of God's family has implications, and what we are talking about is what it means to be in. This is why we call this series that way. And 2 weeks ago, Roberto shared that one of those implications is you and I are invited to God's family. You and I are invited to God's family. And then Alejandro Mendoza told us how invaluable we are to God. If you didn't listen to these messages, as Fer said a moment ago, we have a podcast channel, and it would be great for you to listen to them. But today I want to talk to you about a topic that is very passionate for me, and it has everything to do with influence. And for starters, I want to ask you something. I want to tell you something that happens to me very frequently. I don't know if it's the same case for you, but on many occasions, I am in bed before going to sleep, trying to read something, or maybe watching a Netflix series, and you listen to the voice of someone you don't recognize in your spouse's phone, and immediately my response is, who's that person? Who are you listening to? Or I'm trying to read or to watch, and her answer is no one. You don't know her, or you don't know him. But okay, but who is he? Who is she? I don't want to know if I know her or not. And her answer is, you don't know her. She's an influencer. I don't know if that happens to you often, but it has happened lately to me. Actually, this week, when I was preparing for today, I couldn't stop thinking about an amazing person who's actually part of our Monterrey community. Her name is Andrea. Probably you know her, Andrea Flores. I met her last year because she visited us here in Mexico City, and she has an inspirational story. But there's something very interesting that I want to show you, because she has a YouTube channel, and I want you to know or to see that she has videos with over 1 million views, and that's influence. I think it's incredible. There are people, or so many people, who can connect to see a content in a determined amount of time. And I don't know how many of you consider yourself as influencers. Probably after watching Andrea and her videos, you're gonna think, oh, I'm not an influencer at all. But my purpose today, and what I want to share with you, has the objective of correcting of what you think of an influencer nowadays, because you are someone of influence. And I want to give you a phrase, and I want to share, and I want to repeat it throughout the message, because this is the thought I want you to take away. You have no idea of the impact a conversation, a word of encouragement, or an expression of encouragement or generosity can have in life. You have no idea. And I searched what is this definition of influence, and the only thing I could find in Google was that it has to do with someone with the capacity of impacting the purchasing decisions of someone else. And we see them making alliances with the companies who want to make campaigns, and they make alliances because of their authority, knowledge, public image. And that sounds strange to me. I don't know if it's because of my age. I don't consider myself old, but I grew up thinking and understanding that someone of influence was your teacher, your professor, a coach at your sports club, or a good friend you had. People who invest in your life, in the life of the people. But in a way, culture has hijacked that term, and we believe influence is limited only to celebrities or to content creators or people who have a lot of followers on social media. And to me, this is a tragedy. It is a tragedy because you have no idea how God can use one word of encouragement and expression of faith to impact the life of someone else. And I want to stop for a moment and talk to you. If you are not a Jesus follower, maybe you have a lot of doubts, questions about this topic of faith. And I want to tell you that it's great that you are connected. We love the fact that you are connected, because although what I'm gonna talk about today is addressed to people who are already Jesus followers, I hope that you can find value in this. I hope that it can make sense to you what I'm going to share, because although it's optional, it's something that you can take, embrace, and own. But if you are a Jesus follower, if you are part of our family, if you are a Jesus follower, I'm sure you've heard a phrase that Jesus told his friends that has been recorded in what we call as the Gospels, in one of Jesus's biographies, when he was with his closest followers and he told them, "You are the salt of the earth, the light of the world." It is a very famous phrase from Jesus, and I'm sure you've heard it. Without a doubt you have. But have you stopped to think why Jesus used this analogy of light and earth and salt? When I was thinking of this, I thought of a barbecue. I don't know how many of you like barbecue and preparing it and the salt. If you like barbecue and if you're from Monterrey, I'm sure you are preparing one. Of course, you are writing that you like it. I am from Monterrey and I love barbecues. And please write if you have the opportunity. Tell me what's your favorite cut and how often you prepare barbecues, because ever since I came to Mexico City about 10 years ago, that one of the ways I remembered Monterrey was that. And we have a group of people here, of friends, my friend Charlie Oviedo, who I'm sure you know, Peter, my friend from Argentina, also teaches us barbecues, and of course Danny Guzman. We love this. We love the spices and how it tastes, and the most influential component on the taste of the meat is the salt. And there are many types of salts: burned, with spices, with chili, with garlic, smoked. And it's amazing. Jesus used this analogy 2,000 years ago, and that it's still so relevant, because you need to know salt doesn't only add taste to the meat, it has an impact that goes beyond. It also purifies, it preserves. And if you are part of Vidaín, if you are part of Vertical in Santiago de Chile, you need to remember what Jesus told his friends, because he told it to us also. You are the salt of the earth. Now, I want to tell you something. It's not that what influencers do is little to me. Actually, I would like to be one, and many of you to be influencers as well. The problem is when you see an influencer, you can get to believe that influence starts with a platform, because obviously the larger your platform, the larger your influence will be. But you know, something I've learned is influence, especially true influence, the one that is lasting, not necessarily starts with platforms. It starts with people. It always starts with people. And the good news for you and I is that all of us have people around us in a relational or influence circle with whom we are in contact every day. Probably nowadays is through a video call like this, virtually. Not all of us have the opportunity of meeting in person and going back to our places of work, or we don't have as much contact as we had before. But I'm definitely convinced you can be of influence. You can have influence. And I want to ask you something. I want to make an illustration. And this is important, because if I were to ask you, if you know a little bit about us, you know that at the end of last year, we launched Vidaín Mexico City. And if I asked you who influenced the launching of Vidaín Mexico City last year, probably you would say, well, of course, Jair and Karen. Jair and Karen, with a group of families, together with some other families, started to meet in their apartment. It started to grow, and eventually it became Vidaín Mexico City. And that would be right, but it would be a half-truth, incomplete, because behind Jair and Karen and these families, there was a series of people who had a lot of influence, so that Vidaín in Mexico City were a reality. One of the people I need to bring to the table is my brother Lauro. If you know anything about our family, you know he's our family director in Monterrey. He directs the multi-campus family ministry, what we do with your children, with students. And Lauro is a person with whom I had long conversations about God, about Bible texts that were passionate for us. We talked about the love of God, what God had done in our family. And at the end of the conversation, Lauro always told me, can you imagine serving God together? It would be a dream come true. I remember dreaming about it and saying it would be amazing. And then in 2012, 8 years ago, I saw Lauro starting to invest his life literally, because when you invest your time, you are investing your life. Your time is your life. And Lauro invested his life together with his wife Monica and another group of family to start Vida in Monterrey. And now I want to tell you that God used his influence to influence me. Definitely, if you ask who impacted or influenced Vida in Mexico City, definitely was my brother Lauro. Eventually, Lauro introduced Roberto, and Roberto, our lead pastor in our organization, in our three churches, was someone who definitely influenced Vida in Mexico City. With Roberto, we started to have a lot of conversations, and there was a conversation I will never forget, a conversation we had over the phone where he told me in a way I had never heard before. He said, Jair, you are a leader. And that marked me. It's not that I hadn't heard it before. Of course, my parents had told me, maybe a teacher, but no one had told me that with such certainty. He said, you are a leader. It's not coincidence that you feel comfortable with a microphone in your hand. God wants you to deliver his message. And I said, wow, that impacted me. So who influenced Vida in Mexico City and to be launched last year? Yes, Jair and Karen, but behind it was Lauro, Roberto. And even that would be incomplete, because 16 years back, an American missionary, he and his wife, you know them, I'm sure, especially if you are connecting from Saltillo, or if you know anything about Vida In, you know John and Carla. You would say, oh, they're these crazy gringos because of their passion, but I would tell you they're crazy for Jesus. John and Carla, they had a great vision where they told God up front, okay, God, we're going to launch a church. We're going to start it here in Saltillo. But you know what? We want it to be different. We understand we need to be relevant. We want this church to be fun, this church to be without religiousness, where we can have our eyes on the same place as you, Lord, on people who are disengaged from God. And 3 years later, after Juan and Carla said yes to what they understood came from God, to launch Vida in Saltillo, 3 years later, I heard him, and that captured my mind and my imagination. A great leader, a great vision, and definitely it would be nuts for me to not include and consider John and Carla clearly the way they influenced Vida in Mexico City. It was not only Jair and Karen, not only Lauro and Roberto. There are more parts to the puzzle, and each one of them had influence, so that today we can have a growing communities in one of the largest cities in the world. It is amazing. And I tell you this because of the following. You have no idea on the impact one moment, one small conversation, one word of encouragement, one expression of faith can have in someone. Something I have understood from influence is this, and it's very important. Influence is not always obvious. It's not always evident. Influence is not something instantaneous. It's not that you have a great return on investment, a great harvest after planting a small seed. But you need to know God can use to plant a small seed, which eventually will grow and become real positive and lasting influence in the life of someone. Today, I want to show you and share with you a story in what we know today as the New Testament. Is in one of the Gospels, which are the biographies of Jesus, written by one of his closest friends named John. And this part of the text that we're going to read talks about a woman, and I'm sure she was considered the least influential person you can imagine. The least influential person. And the context of this we're going to read is Jesus was on a trip. Actually, he did something very strange because he went through a place called Samaria. And you need to know, Jewish people and Samaritans hated each other. There was no kind of relationship between them. Samaritans are the mix between a Jewish and a Gentile, and to them, to Jewish people, Samaritans were even less than dogs. And Jesus did what Jesus did best. If you have read how Jesus acted around people, you know Jesus startled everything, and this was not the exception, because he didn't only go through Samaria, but he decided to stop there and rest. And you said, what? You know what? It was noon. We need to understand it was a very hot moment. I'm sure our friends in Monterrey can identify. Imagine noon, all the heat, and he said, I'm not only going to go by, I'm going to sit next to a well. And then the story tells us that he found a Samaritan woman, and Jesus did the unthinkable, because Jesus asked the woman for water, for a drink. And what you need to understand is the mere fact of initiating a conversation with the woman was something that left her completely startled, because in a way he was dignifying her. They didn't talk to a Samaritan woman just because. And I want to read the text because it is a very interesting narrative. John chapter 4, verse 9. Look at what it says. The woman did. The woman was startled and then said to Jesus, you are Jewish and I'm Samaritan. How can you ask me for a drink? The woman was impacted. She didn't expect that. She had never seen him. It wasn't seen. No Jewish man addressed a Samaritan woman. And again, Jesus was dignifying her. And in verse 10, he said, if you knew the gift of God and who is it that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. When Jesus answered this, if you knew the gift, Jesus is talking with love. This is perceived. He's not judging. And she is intrigued by the situation, but at the same time, she is confused because of what's happening. And on verse 11 says, Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? And then Jesus answered in verse 13, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, the water from the well. But whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst. Definitely in this passage, in the scene, we see the woman identifies there's something different about Jesus. There's something different about him. The mere fact of what they were talking about on the conversation, and she eventually said, Lord, I want of that water. Please give me of that living water you're talking about. And then Jesus answered in verse 18 and said, look at what Jesus did. Go call your husband and come back. I have no husband, answered the woman. And then Jesus said, it's true, you have no husband because you have had 5. And the fact is that the man you have now is not your husband. Certainly you told the truth. And the woman said, what's up with this? How can he know all of my life? And the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. And it's amazing because in a way, what we are seeing is something that wasn't seen. You need to understand that in the whole planet, there was no Jewish person who would dare to interact with that woman, especially with that type of woman, only Jesus. And even though you can think Jesus is being insensitive, harsh with her because of what he was telling her, what Jesus is doing is he's making her know her real need. He's not condemning her, but redeeming her. He's not saying you've had 5 husbands and you're not even married now. No, he's saying, he's honoring her. He's not judging her. He decided to extend to her justice, even though that with her reputation, without a doubt, she was outcast in her community. Imagine 5 times divorced and now living with a sixth husband. Many people nowadays would do the same thing, judge her. Imagine a woman with that resume was definitely rejected, forbidden. It was someone outcast from society. But I want you to see this because it's important. Because Jesus knew the story behind the story. I believe Jesus didn't stay at this on the surface as many of us do sometimes. It's something we should change. We are so quick to judge, so quick to reach to draw conclusions that we don't see what's behind a face. We need to be like Jesus because I'm sure Jesus knew. I can guarantee this woman didn't wake up one day saying, "Oh, my life objective is to have 6 marriages." Of course not. I don't know, but I'm sure Jesus knew of her difficult childhood. Well, he knew her parents were abusive. Her self-esteem was on the floor. I don't know. Maybe Jesus knew in that first marriage, in some of them, her marriages, this guy was a jerk and abandoned her, and he was a guy with whom she had a kid, and he abandoned her, and now she has to raise him alone. I don't know. I can guarantee Jesus knew the story. And the fact is, and I want you to know, to listen to this, because this can apply to us. As long as, while everyone in that society saw an immoral woman, Jesus was seeing a miracle about to happen. And this excites me because Jesus knew a small touch, a little bit of interest, a little bit of grace and love had the potential of changing completely the heart of this woman. And in this story, we see that during the conversation, we see that she understands, and she thought, I've heard of a Messiah to come. I've heard there's a Jewish man making a miracle worker, raising the dead and making the blind see, healing people. And now I see this Jewish man addressing me, dignifying me, honoring me, knowing everything about my life. Could it be? Could it be the Messiah? And look at what the text says on verse 28. The woman left immediately her water jar, then went back to the town and said to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" And do you know what happened afterwards? After she decided to go running, it says in verse 30, they came out of the town and made their way toward him. That's what verse 30 says. Friends, what can we observe from this story? And this is what I want you to take away. There are 2 things in particular I want you to see. 2. The first one is this: it doesn't matter how disorganized is your life, you will never be out of the reach of God's love. It's important that you know this. To me, this was written, probably if you have doubts, if you are in a point where you say, I did whatever, the worst thing I could do, I was unreachable to God's love, you are never too far from God's love. The love of God will reach you. The love of God reaches you. The second thing I want you to see is that we are seeing the town's outcast, the rejected woman, running enthusiastically to tell everyone that maybe this man she was talking to was the chosen one, the Messiah. The immoral woman, from one moment to the next, became a great influencer. And I want to tell you, that's why I told you at the beginning, you have no idea. You don't have to have it all together to influence someone towards God. You don't need to know it all. You don't need a doctorate in theology. You don't need worthy prayers. You don't know where everything is in the Bible. You don't need to be perfect. I'll tell you what you need. You need to know who Jesus is, having experienced his grace and goodness, and that you care for people. You can be that light. You can be that salt for people who are around you. You don't have to have 4,000 followers to have a platform. You only need to care about the person in front of you. And I want you to see how this story ended, because it is amazing what happened. Thanks to what the woman decided to do, thanks to the fact that she decided to care, her people in the town said, many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I did in my life. And when they went out to see him, they urged him to stay with them. And it says that Jesus stayed 2 days more. And because of his words, many more became believers. I want to ask you someone, who did God use that day? He didn't use the Instagram star, professional athlete with Adidas or Nike endorsements. He didn't use a celebrity, a content creator. He used a Samaritan woman who we don't even know her name, a woman who had sinned with a broken heart, but who had been transformed by Jesus. You have influence there where you are. You don't have to have a perfect life to have influence. And this is why I want to tell you this. This phrase is what I want to leave you with. You have no idea of what a word of encouragement, an expression of love can mean to someone who needs a small token of God's love. Friends, if you are connected today, maybe someone invited you, you have nothing to do with Vida In or Vertical, you are not a Jesus follower, maybe you have a lot of doubts. I want to tell you that I would love for you to consider to follow Jesus. Definitely, that is our hope, to inspire you to follow Jesus. But regardless of where you're standing in your faith journey, I want to tell you something. Do not allow the definition culture has about influence rob you of the opportunity of having a positive impact in the people around you. You are a leader, and God created you to bring change, to express generosity, to be the difference wherever you are. Now, if you are a Jesus follower, I'll tell you, we had never experienced a stage in our lives. There had never existed a moment in history where it was so easy to make a difference and impact someone for God. Sharing Jesus had never been so easy. You just have to click, share a transmission like this, we'll do a watch party on Facebook, on YouTube, share it. You don't know the impact it can have in someone. That you tell someone on Sunday, hey, I'm going to church. What? You're going to church? Maybe there's someone on your social media and you can explain the church is in your living room and you can invite them to connect. To close, I just want to leave you with this thought. Yes, it is what's most important. If there's something I want you to hear is this. If you are a Jesus follower, represent him with dignity. Do not judge. Love. Stay with that great thought Jesus gave us. Don't judge. Love. Let people know you. Let people know us for what we are for and not for what we are against. You are salt. You are light. Let salt do its job and let your line shine. Do you agree? Yes? If you agree with me, write down, I'm in. Are you in? Please write it down, because on my end, I'm in. What a privilege you and I have to be salt and light of the world. What a great honor that God calls us the light of the world, that he makes us part of his team to impact people. No matter where you've been standing, doesn't matter what was your past, what you've done or not done. God invites you to be part of His team. And I want to take a moment to tell you thank you. Thank you because every time you connect, every time you share this transmission, every time you serve, maybe even in this digital way, every time you give of your resources and of your finances, you are part of this vision, you are part of this team. And I'm extremely happy because in the middle of this pandemic, in the middle of this difficult time, we have been able, or we have helped 32 families, 32 people in our church, and we have been able to help them financially, economically, and that makes us very happy because we are impacting the lives of people or families, and you are part of this. We just want to thank you. Thank you for adding, for your generosity, because it makes the difference. And now we're going to sing a couple of songs. We're going to celebrate the God we have and celebrate what you and I can be a part of. So join us in these songs and we'll sing to the God we have.
Mi vergüenza me sepultó. Yo buscaba un Salvador, mas tu perdón me liberó. Muerto estaba en mi interior, me escondía de ti, Señor, mas tu perdón me liberó. Tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció. Glorioso día, tu sangre me rescató. Tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció. Glorioso día, tu sangre me rescató. Ahora libre soy en tu amor. Es tu gracia la que me salvó, mas tu perdón a mí me liberó. Tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció. Glorioso día, tu sangre me rescató. Tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció. Glorioso día, tu sangre me rescató. En mi pecado me rescataste, en tu gloria cadenas se rompen. Vivía solo y sin consuelo, ahora soy ciudadano del cielo. Tú me sanaste estando herido, Jesús, por tu amor yo respiro. Tengo un futuro, ahora veo, porque tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció. Glorioso día, tu sangre me rescató. Tu voz me habló y a la muerte venció.
This, which we just heard sang about, is the reason of our faith, the reason why we believe in Jesus. And this next song we'll sing, it's a new song that invites us to trust God, trust Him, because it is only enough for us to look back at all that He has already done for us and in us, so that we can trust Him with our future and our present. In the past, He's been good, He's been faithful, and this is why you and I can trust He is there in the future. We can trust Him with our future.
Al recordar, no tengo duda que en lo mejor y en lo peor de mí estuviste siempre ahí. En el dolor y en la promesa, cuando mi fe pasando el fuego está, me protege tu bondad. El futuro no me preocupa más, porque en tus manos sé que mi historia está. Mi Dios no me dejará. Lo que Él empezó, Él acabará. Mi futuro seguro está. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. Él fue bueno ayer y Él siempre lo será. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. Siempre hay más en el futuro, en la montaña y en el valle estás. Un camino abrirás. Donde me llames, yo te sigo. Y si las olas me llegan a hundir, sé que tú vendrás por mí. El futuro no me preocupa más, porque en tus manos sé que mi historia está. Mi Dios no me dejará. Lo que Él empezó, Él acabará. Mi futuro seguro está. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. Él fue bueno ayer y Él siempre lo será. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. El futuro no me preocupa más, porque en tus manos sé que mi historia está. Mi Dios no me dejará. Lo que Él empezó, Él acabará. Mi futuro seguro está. Él fue bueno ayer, siempre lo será. Mi Dios no me dejará. Lo que Él empezó, Él acabará. Mi futuro seguro está. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. Él fue bueno ayer y Él siempre lo será. Su fidelidad jamás me fallará. Muchísimas gracias por
Thank you very much for being with us this Sunday. We hope that your week will begin in the best way possible. See you next Sunday to close out the series. I'm in. See you next week.